Guaranteed. Visit arnoldclarke.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clarke. It's Tuesday, the 17th of November. Great to have your company. Alan Rough alongside me as ever. Darren Jackson and Hugh McDonald as we get ready for that final Nations League group match. Destiny in our own hands. Scotland, if they can defeat Israel, will top that group. And I think it could be just an all-round great 7 to 10 days for Scotland, Roughie, because if Serbia was a high, beating Israel will certainly be a high again because it doubles your chances with the World Cup qualification.
Yeah, that's why I think this game is as important as last week's one. Obviously, we're in the Euros, but as I said yesterday, I think the World Cup's a bigger picture. If we can make it easier to qualify for that competition, that'd be fantastic. If we could make an easier route into that one. But again, as I said yesterday, we've got to prove that we can beat teams away from home. You know, we've had a fantastic run, 9 or 10 games, but we've only won one game away from home, and that was against a drummed-up Czech Republic side. So I'm sure Stevie Clarke will be wanting his players to go out and win this game just to keep everybody going.
In the old, probably, I don't know if you can remember the Goodies or even Monty Python sketches, Roughie, nothing would please me more than just to keep scalping your head with a kipper right now, as you consistently manage to put me on a downer just when I'm starting to get even a modicum of optimism, Hugh, but he just keeps doing it to me.
Yes, and the Reverend I Am Jolly will never be dead as long as Alan Ruff's living and breathing on the outskirts of Cumbernauld. He actually, and this is painful for me to say, he actually makes a very good point about winning away from home. I actually think it's the next big step. We know in many ways we did against Serbia, but it took us 2 hours and penalties, so officially that doesn't count as a win again home, but it did count as a victory that took us to the Euro 2021, as it will be. I think it's a hugely important game for Scotland tonight, because I think against Israel, because I think it really can frank a good form. Slovakia was a bit of a downer, but an unexpected one. But to go again, to put us top of a group, to put us in with a chance of another route of getting to Qatar, I think will be hugely important for us, hugely significant. And I don't think it's beyond us, Peter.
Yeah, I'm not being facetious with Roughie. I understand where he's coming from with the point. It is a very valid point that he makes. He just makes it every day. The other thing I was going to say, the other point I was going to say, Darren, is apart from anything else, and Roughie and I were there for most of the campaign where we witnessed Gordon Strachan, who I think is a very good coach. We witnessed that team getting better and better. There was a progress. You could see they were all buying into the manager. He created that club feeling. I think Steve Clarke has now started to replicate that and enhance it as we go on. And the one thing about it, I mean, Hugh mentioned it was a bit of a downer losing to Slovakia, but I mean, we controlled the game again for long periods. We created numerous chances.
Yeah, without doubt, Peter. It was a good performance. The second half wasn't brilliant, but it was a good performance. But I think you're right, Peter. It actually starts. You look as though they've got a real good bond there now, and it starts off the pitch. And as you say, with Gordon and all that, and I actually put it down to Peter. I put it down to mobile phones and PS1s, or I'm too old now. PS1s and all that, because they take them with them and they sit in their rooms and they play the PlayStation and they're on their phones all the time, where you need to be. Look, when we were there, and obviously when Roughie was there, I don't think there was phones when Roughie was there, but when I was there, you all sat together. You all actually played cards. You were all about each other, and that's a big part. And they look as though they've got that now, and that goes onto the pitch, and you've got that much a connection with the guy that you're playing with or you're rooming with and all that, and you've got such a connection that you will go that extra yard. And listen, results helps and gives you that confidence. And they did go into the game. I mean, Peter, I actually said, I think it was to my brother-in-law, and I'm probably missing out that beating France in France. but it was probably one of the best performances in the last 22 years that we've not qualified away from home, that we actually dominated the game, and they were brilliant for 89 minutes. And that's progression. It's no going away and defending and people saying, you'll be happy with a draw, you'll take it to penalties. They weren't happy with a draw. At the end of the day, when they did score, obviously you'd say, well, we are happy. But the way they played, I thought they were absolutely outstanding.
Yeah, another thing about this, I mean, let's be honest with it, Darren couldn't quite set out the timeline on when PlayStation 1 was actually delivered. And of course, what he didn't realise is Scotland under Roughie, that was all about when they got together, how to plan an escape committee. That was their day. But to be fair, I'm not going to knock Roughie for it, because Roughie, you could go out and have a bit of fun. We always joke about it. It was because you had really good players. I mean, these guys knew they were professionals. Right. They liked to laugh, but they could play.
Yeah, my lasting memory is, as Dan said, there was a bonding of a team when we stayed down at Seamill Hydro, and we were given the night off, and we all decided to go into Largs, and the game wasn't until the Thursday or something, and we were told we can go out and have a right good night out. So most of the squad all went, the usual suspects all went, and I remember about 1 o'clock when we left wherever we were, it must have been about 12 or 14 international football players just walking from Largs to Seamill Hydro at 1 o'clock in the morning and having a laugh along the road as we joyfully went back to the hotel. It was, I remember it as if it was only yesterday. I mean, Joe Jordan, Big Gordon, Kenny, just all a bonding night and everybody together, and we just wanted to walk back to the hotel. It was memories like that I know what Darren's talking about. Because when you go in the park, that's when you start feeding off that kind of thing. Unfortunately, you didn't talk to the Dundee United boys or the Aberdeen boys, because they never came out at all. They were just a nightmare.
yeah. I'm sure quite a few of them said they're not going. And the 14 of you all walking from Largs to Seamill is just a picture of. I've just got that picture in my head. I just need to clarify, Roughie. And you know me, I don't like to use bad language, but were you all rat-arsed?
Yeah, I mean, the thing about it is you wouldn't have been able to do that today. I mean, we'd all got tracksuits on. We'd all Scotland tracksuits on. No, nobody was dressed up or anything. And we all walked along the road. Now, somebody would have picked that up on a mobile phone or whatever, and it had been just plastered everywhere. That's the change it is. That's why the players are so restricted now in everything that they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who would go out on a boat with a couple of his mates these days, Hugh? I mean, that would be... they could do that in those days and get away with it. Anyway, apart from anything else, listen, we want them to do well, and it doesn't matter as we go through the stages. It doesn't change. It's like Bill Shankly. It's like so many managers down through the years, Johan Cruyff as well. It's a simple game. And if you've got the technical ability and then you've got somebody who can organise them well, and that's the key here. We've got a manager that he may not be flamboyant, Hugh, but he's certainly efficient, and he's got them all totally and utterly eating out of his hand right now, because he's given them a very simple plan. And I remember Chris Boyd saying it, Hugh. Everybody was saying, what does Steve Clarke do at Kilmarnock? What's this special thing that he has? And he said, it doesn't complicate it, he keeps it simple.
Well, he basically tells everybody what's expected of them and what they have to do. I mean, the greatest triumph from Steve Clarke is like all international managers at a certain level, beyond the elite level of the top teams like Brazil and Spain and Germany, for example. The big skill is to disguise your weaknesses. The big skill is to work with what you've got. You don't have 11 world-class players to choose from. You might not even have 11 European-class players to play for. You might not even have 11 of the best players in your league to play to pick from. So you've got to mix and match. And I'm saying this because, I mean, I'm quite content. There's Roughie just about to toast me, Peter, on this one. This point I was making that I got it wrong last week. I thought Serbia would beat Scotland because I thought they had better players, Peter, and I thought they had, and I'm pretty sure they do have better players. But what happened was that Steve Clarke came up with a strategy that disguised the weakness of his weaker players, accentuated the positive as his very, very good players, and revolutionary-wise, didn't go backs against the wall. In certain ways, he went at Serbia, pressed high, posed them problems. So it was a coaching masterclass. You've got to remember, just to say one thing, to finish one thing, half the defence that lost one goal to Serbia in 2 hours had lost 4 goals to Celtic in an hour and a half. I mean, that is, and O'Donnell and Gallagher never looked uncomfortable last week. Just didn't look uncomfortable. And that's that says a lot for the 2 individual characters, don't get me wrong, but it says a lot about the way the manager has gone about setting out his team.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Peter. If Steve Clarke's done anything in the last 18 months, all we've been talking about is we don't have centre-halves. Who's the centre-half going to be? Is it him? Is it whatever? And what we're going to do? And now all of a sudden, we're playing 3 at the back. We're playing 3 at the back with just workman-like centre-halves. And that's what Steve Clarke's done. I could never see it in a million years as going 3 at the back because I just didn't think with players that could play 3 at the back. But he seems to think now that he has players and they've proved that they can play it. It'll be interesting when we come up against some better sides. But at this moment in time, for us to play 3 at the back for Scotland is a way ahead of what we used to do.
Yeah, well, we're going to hear from Steve Clarke in a minute because obviously I had a chat with him at the press conference this afternoon. But I think that the key issue here that we've got to remember, Darren, I can remember Hugh as well, especially, when we were interviewing Steve Clarke about a year ago, maybe beyond that, he was scurrying about looking for the aforementioned defenders that Roughie and I were talking about. But suddenly, if I'd said to you a year ago, by the way, Declan Gallagher at Motherwell will be a star man, you would have looked at me. You would have looked at me and thought, I'm bonkers. And then all of a sudden, you say to yourself, "Well, wait a minute. We'll get 2 left backs. Well, we might have solved this conundrum because Tierney will play left of the 3 because he's playing that with Arsenal."
I think that's a huge help, Peter, that he is playing that with Arsenal, and the 2 of them had to be in the team. Yes, Gordon played him right back, and the way Kieran's just goes and plays because of his attitude. Was he the great right back? I mean, I never see him passing the ball with his right foot. So it is very. You see right footers playing left back, but you don't see many left footers playing right back. And of course, listen, my hands up. I didn't have Declan on my team. I think Declan's done extraordinarily well. Brilliant how he's done. And you look at the squad now, Peter, and you've got a Premiership centre half and a Championship centre half that's just gone from Aberdeen for 3 million on the bench. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would have probably had them in my team, but Stevie's no had them in his team, and he's got results. So I could be wrong, but it just shows you the strength and depth now, and in the performance. I mean, I thought everyone, and it's probably I'm probably going to be a little bit critical, but not of his performance. John McGinn set so high standards that he was probably the one that didn't play as well as John McGinn can play. I still thought he was very good, but John McGinn has taken his game to another level. But I thought everyone was brilliant, and I mean, it just breeds confidence, and it would be really good to go into this game and get a result, because as Roughie says, away from home, go and get a result away from home, and we qualify.
Yeah, and when you think about the result against Serbia, Steve Clarke, quick to point out today how important this game could be in the bigger picture for us with World Cup qualification.
No problem at all with energy. That won't be an issue. The fact is, it is another step on the road to the World Cup in Qatar 2022, which is where we want to be. So from now on, really until April, the focus is on the World Cup. Is this game can give us a chance to be in a playoff for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed. Some people would think that the whole of Celtic, Rangers, the Aberdeen, the Motherwell players who are involved, and then all the players down south. I'm amazed they think they're going to run out of energy. Roughie, they've got a major championships to go to. It'll enhance their status. It'll certainly give some of them a big move, Roughie. So if I was a guy even in the squad for Scotland, I would be. I would probably, because he's on the programme, I would probably, Roughie, be in the same boat as you and Darren were all those years ago. You may not be with a high-profile club at the time, but if I can just, fire on here, I could be at a major championships.
Yeah, and if we look at the papers have started already, making up the squad, looking at who's the given, who's definitely going to be in it, and you're up at 14 or 15, that leaves you to guess who the rest are going to be. And the players themselves will know whether they're a given or whether they're on the fringe or whether they can break into it. So that's what they'll have to do in every game that comes up, if there's any friendlies come up. And at club level, they have to maintain that they know they're going to be in the 14 or the 15, or they need to get in it. Because, as you've already said, and people have said, he's very loyal to guys, who have done well for him, like the Considines and the Gallaghers, So the people on the outside are the ones have got the problem getting in. Because if you're not in it now, you're going to have to do something special to break into it, because there's only like James Forrest and I would say Ryan Fraser to come back in. Anybody out of that is going to have to do something special to get into his 22.
Yeah, and the other thing about it as well, which I hope he somehow manages to get going, Darren, is quite simply the fact that although we lost to Slovakia, we did create chances. We need to get people scoring goals, taking the chances. I don't want to go down the road that we did yesterday, which is basically it's like an Ollie McBurney assessment class where everybody dissects the boy and wonders whether he's got it or not. I just think, there are options there, but we've got to start taking more than just one chance, as Hugh highlighted earlier.
Of course, Peter, yeah. I mean, but it was the same with our team as well. I mean, we only lost 3 goals, but we did have a Gallagher, we had a Jury, we had a McCoist for the Euros and all that. So that does make a difference. We've got a Dykes just now. And listen, everyone's had their say on McBurney. I went 14 games, Peter, till I scored my first goal, so I can't really criticise him in that. He's a different player. He's come on for Dykes, and everyone's just, what a wonderful performance Dykes put in, and everyone's just thinking, right, here's Ollie McBurney, he'll just do the same job. He's not that type of player. He's a different player. He plays in a 2 at club level, and he probably feeds off the other striker. And I did feel for him, but I do think we need someone. When we've not got Dykes, I don't know if will Griffiths be in by then, and I think he can lead the line. He can lead the line himself. Listen, see, for Roughie's just said the squad that we had there was 26. You've got Fraser and Forrest to come in, but Peter, you could be looking at Fraser Hornby, the 21s, Billy Gilmore, David Turnbull, Lewis Ferguson. They're looking for. I think it's a big ask for Nisbet, Peter.
Yeah.
To go from and not played at all to go to Euros. If you so I think the 21s, hopefully they qualify tonight, but those guys will maybe take a lift and say, right, well, I can push. Lewis Ferguson's Aberdeen's top goal scorer. Do you know what I mean? So you could have 35 players fighting for 22 places, and I think it can only be good for our league as well. I think the Scottish League will take a little boost because everyone will be fighting first and foremost for their clubs, but want to keep their performances at a level that Steve Clarke is still impressed and he's looking at me and I've got a chance of going.
Yeah, I like your idea though. Let's take 35 and have 26 subs because we might need them. Anyway, apart from anything else, lots of people, some people think Ollie McBurney is just not the answer. It's going to be an ongoing debate. I hope it doesn't actually become a real heavy weight on his shoulders. Sometimes players are able to distance themselves from the noise. We talk about it because we can only analyse what we see in front of us and whether that's good enough or not. He made 9 changes the other night there, Hugh. Do you think he'll go back to the tried and trusted who got him over the line against Serbia?
Yeah, The short answer is yes. I think he goes back to his A team. I think he goes back to the guys that got him, got us over the line and into major championships. I think there was even political reasons for the Slovakia game. It wouldn't have surprised me if he'd made certain promises to, he'll deny it, of course, and so he should deny it because, they would open a can of worms, but there might have been a nod to, shall we say, recovery of certain players playing 3 games in a week before they go back to their clubs. There might have been a sort of tacit understanding that certain guys would get a day off. So I think it goes back to the 11, more or less. I don't think they'll be. In fact, I think he'll go back straight to that 11. On the thing of people coming in, it might be interesting to add yet another name, and it's Steven Naismith, who is not a stranger to these parts as well. If you've got any knowledge, we have a great knowledge of Steven. Steven Naismith will be doing every single thing possible to get back into that squad and he can do both. He can lead the line and he can play off a striker. And when he came back the last time, he franked it with goals as well, Peter. So, I mean, it's great to be talking about now, people that can get into the squad. But I think Stevie will be pretty locked down at what his first 11 is for tonight, if not beyond.
Yeah, tomorrow night. I just thought we were getting ahead of ourselves. I'll keep it right, Hugh. The under-21s, Hugh, are playing right now. It's 0-0 at the moment. And the good thing about that, Roughie, is suddenly, I mean, we're talking to Steve Clarke today, and suddenly, we've asked him a couple of questions about the under-21s because there's a whole raft of players there who are one game away from getting qualification for the first time in 25 years at the under-21 level. And that, as you know, because you played under-23 football for Scotland, is a nice conveyor belt to keep this momentum going.
Yeah, but as Darren said at the beginning, the only way you improve yourself is by going to big finals. When you go to the finals, you play against better players, you get a better idea of the quality of the players, and that's what we haven't done at that level. Under 21, we haven't been to any major tournaments. So if we were to get there, that would bring these players on leaps and bounds. And you're right. I mean, I said the other day there, I was looking at that under 21 squad. It's very impressive. Really impressive, the amount of players who have come on, the Fergusons, the McCrorys, all these guys. And, you want them to qualify to experience what it's like to go to a final and the pressures that come with going to a final. And they become better players. So let's hope they can do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's I missed out. Porteous and McCrory. That's another 2 who have performed extremely well this season.
Hang on, we can't have 28 subs. You can get a grip.
I'm just talking for Steve. Obviously, I'm talking for Steve as a whole. Yeah. Looking at all them. I mean, it'll be hard for Ryan because of the centre halves that are in there and the centre halves that are on the bench. But he's had an incredible season, and look how well McCrory's played as well. And listen, you know what it's like. There will be, hopefully there's not, but there will be probably a couple of injuries and all that. So the more that obviously for Stevie, the better that they're performing at a high level. And if the under-21s can qualify and they're playing at a high level, that step again to the full squad makes it a little bit easier.
Yeah, and when Steve Clarke was talking about this week and the week that Scotland have had, we've had that ultimate high, which of course was Serbia and the nation going mental, and rightly so. I don't think it was an ultimate low with Slovakia. It was disappointing not to get something from the game. But as far as Steve Clarke is concerned, it's history now. They've done the job there. They've got to concentrate on this match.
It's always difficult with the three games in a short period of time anyway to manage the group through 3 tough international matches. Like you said, we created a little bit of history on Thursday night. We'd spoken about that before, but the thing about history is it's always in the past. So we're looking to create more history in the future.
I like his attitude, Hugh, do you?
Absolutely spot on. And it's an attitude that's born of being a top class player himself. And remember, an absolute top class coach. I mean, this is a guy who's been given jobs by Hewlett, Mourinho, Kenny Kilkenny, Bobby Robson he's worked with as well. I mean, his coaching CV is as good, is just as good as anybody's, frankly. And he knows what the great prerogative of being a coach is, and that's results. They've got to go and keep on doing it. He's got to build things like teamwork. He's got to build a strategy. He's got to enable players to play at the top of their individual abilities. But the bottom line comes down to results. You only need to know this, Peter, if we go down the Reverend I.M. Jolly / Alan Rough route. Imagine if that shot in the second half of extra time against Serbia goes in, and Scotland come away with that, 2-1 down. Can you imagine the narrative of the last week about Scotland, about Steve Clarke, about the actual individual character of Scots? This is so like us. We're always that. We can't be trusted. You're 30 seconds away from closing a game out. Blah de blah de blah. That's how really fine things are at the top level of football. That the whole culture and the debate around Scotland has changed because of what they did in Belgrade.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Hugh. I mentioned it yesterday. We were literally one bad result away from Think Tank 3 and analysing our entire game again, which is what we do, Roughie, with regards to Scotland. We can't help ourselves, but this time around, and again, I think, Roughie, we've got to mention this time around with the under-21s, it's still 0-0, by the way. I think you get a situation where we've had a Malky Mackay, we've had grassroots football, we've had coaches going in, for example, at Braidhurst High School here in Motherwell, and these centres around Scotland. So somewhere along the line, something has gone right to get a bigger pool of people to call on, Roughie.
Yeah, but it's a massive debate, this one, Peter, because people at Rangers and Celtic will tell you, how many people are coming through the academy and getting into the first teams. There's something down the road that only the really, really good ones are busting through, like the Gilmores and that. And you just have to grab it while it's there. But you're right, that under-21 team, I think it is the case that they're all playing first-team football now. They're all playing first-team football at Aberdeen, at clubs down in England, and that's how they're getting better and better. But they need to make that step. They need to get into this big tournament, and I think they'll move on. I mean, I've said to you numerous, you touched on it briefly there. When we were in under-23s, it was me, Danny McGrain, Joe Jordan, Gordon McQueen. We all played in the under-23s, and we all went up to the full squad at the same time. We all just get promoted once. So for the start of that season, there was 6 or 7 of us all playing in the full squad out of that under-23s. I don't know that there's a debate about under-21 and under-23. There's a 2-year gap there. That I think when it's under-23, you've had more experience than the under-21s. But the under-21s are now breaking in to first-team games where they weren't before.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've been bumming them up. But I think it's time for Think Tank 3 because Greece have just scored. It's 1-0 Greece. Their game's rubbish, isn't it? Let's analyse it. The under-21s are minging, aren't they? Apart from anything else. Long way to go, please. But 1-0 to Greece at the moment. Yeah, I get where you're coming from, Roughie. But listen, a wee bit of luck. A lot of effort from people at grassroots, a lot of effort from people who are working for the SFA. A lot of people are working for club football, may well deserve credit as well. But the one overriding factor in all of this, and I put it down to a little bit of a mixture of the economic situation over the last 10 years, Hugh. A number of clubs have decided the penny's dropped. I'm going to give Scottish players a chance to get to that magical 100 games, to play that magical 150 and get the experience of playing against better players and becoming better players. And I give you the classic example. Ryan Jack, at times, I didn't see anything unbelievably special about him at Aberdeen. He's playing for Rangers. He's listening to Steven Gerrard, one of the best midfielders in a generation at England. He's playing European football for Rangers and he's getting better and better.
Yeah, I think that's a crucial thing as well. And what I've noticed, Peter, and I wonder if you're the same. You know, we've been on the periphery, maybe interviewing a few of these younger players. Is the mindset's completely different. I just thought, like, I remember seeing a Billy Gilmore interview where he was asked, you know, what's your ambitions in football? And people of my generation might kind of put their head down and say, "Oh, to do the best I can. Oh, it'd be great to get a game for the first team." He said, "I want to be the best footballer in the world," and I thought, oh my goodness, that's a real sea change. That's somebody who's got the mindset of wanting to improve all the time. And of course, the kid, if you interview people around him, he might not be ever the greatest player in the world. Who knows what he may end up, but he's certainly going about it the right way. Because if you talk to anybody about the way that he trains, the way he sets his focus on things, and the way he reacts to things, you know, that's what he does, and he's not alone in that. You know, if the examples are coming out of young Scottish players who've got really strong mindsets now, really knowing what it takes to get to the top of the tree and willing to make the sacrifices to go there. And I think another wee side issue, Peter, just to finish on this, is a lot of young Scottish kids now going abroad. They're saying to themselves, "I'm not waiting about. I'm going to try and take the best chance I get." There's 3 of them in under 21 squad at the moment, 1 in France and 2 in Holland. There's Liam Henderson in Serie A. There's Aaron Hickey as well. There's a couple of boys who were at Celtic now going out to Bayern Munich. Kids are now not shrinking back from any challenge.
Yeah, well, you only have to look if you want to sum up the perfect attitude. You know, when a number of, and people in our games, you especially in the journalistic world, would constantly bleat on to Andy Robertson about, oh, a year ago you were playing at Queen's Park, oh, 2 years ago you were playing at Queen's Park. And if you look back at some of his quotes, Andy Robertson, I think, was getting a bit miffed with the whole thing when he said, basically, look, I'm a Liverpool player, I worked my bollocks off, was exactly what his quote was. And I worked my bollocks off to get here at this level and play at this level regularly. You know, it's about attitude, it's about commitment, it's about desire, it's all of those things. So, you know, it's not some Queen's Park player suddenly gets elevated to Liverpool. It's Queen's Park, it's, you know, it's Dundee United, it's Hull, it's Liverpool. It's all graft, and a belief that, you know, you might have had a step back at Celtic, but suddenly, Darren, you know, that's not the end for you. It's a mindset.
Peter, desire. You said it. It was Andy's desire. Andy walked in the first day in training, and his desire was just unbelievable. I say this to a lot of people. Andy would play in training and keep the ball in play like it was a World Cup final. He just had this desire and belief. And listen, you saw the wee kind of tussle he had with Messi by pushing him on the head and all that. Andy had a couple of tussles in training with a couple of boys with Nadir and all that. And because he just had that winning streak in him, that even in training he had it. Now, would we say then that he was going to go and captain Liverpool? Would he go and win the Champions League? Would he go and win the league with Liverpool? Would he go and captain Scotland to the Euros? You couldn't say that then, but there's one thing the boy had, was absolute sheer desire. And I saw that with the 19s. I saw that with Billy Gilmore as well, even in his warm-up. And I've said this before, that Frank Lampard was interviewed and said, what does Billy do really well? And he said the basics. And he did. Even the warm-up, he does it to the maximum he can. And that's what makes them the players they are.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, from Scotland, we'll keep you up to date with what's happening with regards to the under-21s. But from Scotland, and Steve Clarke, you can give us your thoughts on that as well. Don't forget, like, share and follow us on our Facebook. You can subscribe by hitting the red button on our YouTube. Thank you to the thousands and thousands of people who are continually joining the football family. What about the news today that looks as if Dermot Desmond's just put the tin lid on any suggestion, Hugh, that there will be an Atlantic League? I think he still has that desire for a breakaway British league, and he wants Celtic to be in there when they eventually come up with that plan.
Yeah, I think the Atlantic League would always been a an option far below the European Super League, where Celtic would have looked to have got into maybe a Division 2 of that, and certainly any revamp of English football. Now, our viewers today, I can expect many of them just holding their heads in their hands and say, we're not going on and on about, Rangers or Celtic joining English football again. It never happens. Well, certainly the odds are stacked against it in terms of the Premier League. The Premier League is looking to contract the number of teams in that league rather than expand it. But there might be opportunities, and I think there are opportunities at a lower level. I think you've got the situation in the EFL where they're looking for something to spice it up. There's an interesting that came out the other day there, Peter, where the sponsors of Ligue 1 in France have said they're not only reducing their offer for future television coverage, but they don't want to pay the deal they don't want to pay all the deal that they have already agreed to. So there might be a contraction and a pressure on broadcasting rights. And if there is a contraction in that, suddenly Celtic and Rangers become very viable forces, particularly at an EFL level. So I think Darren Jackson will have paid heed to this. He'll have his ear to the ground, and he'll be manoeuvring for some opening there.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I don't want to start a whole big British Breakaway League, Atlantic League thing. It's just what happened today. It's just the story that's come out, and I thought it was well worthy of his commenting on it, basically because Celtic, Rangers, Hibs, Hearts and Aberdeen had all discussed the idea of this Atlantic League, which never seems to go away. It's as simple as that. They constantly talk about it. I do think there will be some change down, as the years go on, Roughie, because I think markets determine, rich people determine a lot of where they want to earn their money, and you can only see what's happening at European level, Roughie, to know that a lot of big businessmen, whether it be from America or Europe or indeed in the United Arab Emirates, are looking to all hang about with each other in some form of.
Yeah, I think if we go back 10 or 15 years and somebody was talking about all this stuff just now, you'd be going, oh, no way, that's going to happen. But now as things have moved on, we saw Europa Cup appearing, we saw now the big noises thinking about a breakaway league, we saw everything that's happening down in England with the money. Things are changing. I don't think it'll be in my lifetime, but I think eventually down the road something will happen, because that's the way football goes. And as you said there, money will be the call in it, and I don't know what it'll be, but as we've seen up here, we see that clubs tend to vote for themselves, and I'm sure that'll be the same down in England as well, because the money, the revenue down there is needed by every club. So I think it will happen, but I can't put a time scale on it.
Yep, okay, we'll keep you up to date with the under-21s as it's ongoing. We're 1-0 behind at the moment. I'm looking at another couple of little bits of information that are worthy of our comment. Hugh, what a great AGM coming up for Celtic. The Celtic fans will be allowed to look at it as a virtual AGM, but they can't ask any questions. That's what I call the board getting off the hook.
Well, yeah, and the Celtic AGM, even in times of, sustained triumph, as it has been over the last decade, has been a feisty little affair, because there's been as you know, the famous Resolution 12 has always been there. There's been questions about managerial changes, there's been questions about Champions League, there have been questions about the chief executive as well. So it's always been a really feisty affair, and one that's produced some good news lines is when we've gone along to cover it, Peter. So, yeah, it'll probably be a bit calmer this year with no questions, but there'll be great online comment.
Yeah, there will be questions, Hugh, but I think they've got to submit them 4 days before the AGM, And I don't know about you, but Oh, Celtic fan on the board. We'll not have that one. I'm not happy. I'm not happy with this guy. Get him off. You know, I've been actually got to a point, Hugh, where I'd been to 5 or 6 of them, and I thought, I actually remember as a young reporter sitting at one of them, and I thought, how long is this going to go on? How long do I have to actually sit and listen to the same thing every year?
Yeah, but there was some wee motifs that were interesting, Peter. I've always been, interested in the wee. I mean, you'll remember the one motif, the long case of the disappearing Dermot Desmond, who never comes to the AGM. The long case since from the liquidation of Rangers onwards about SFA's conduct in it, Resolution 12. I thought there's always kind of like strong news lines to it. This one is just a holding exercise, really, because the real questions for Celtic will be answered on the pitch in the new year, I think, and those answers, or lack of them, but those answers will impact heavily on the future of Celtic and people at Celtic.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, Roughie, I want to. Yeah, go on, Roughie.
No, I'm just saying you've touched on a good point. You know, having an AGM and a Zoom call. You can just see it happening, somebody asking a very leading question, and all of a sudden it's, well, we seem to have lost you, we'll go to the next call. You know, I can visualise. See, we've lost you there. Well, we'll take another question to somewhere else.
Yeah, we'll get back to you.
Imagine that.
I actually know the 2 or 3 that they would gleefully avoid taking questions from, but nevertheless, listen, up and down the country, fans want to know what's happening with their club. They want to know what financial state they're in, and in a strange sort of way, and I cannot believe we're at this point in November. But suddenly, Roughie, you know, I think some areas are going to tier 4. It's not quite full lockdown, but it's pretty damn close. And here we go again. And this is off the back of, I read this morning, the Aberdeen Chiefs all saying, look, we've had another survey. We want fans back in at Pittodrie. And I thought, some people can't even get out to Tesco, never mind get to Pittodrie now.
Yeah, I don't think we're far away, Peter, from, I don't know who's responsible for this, SFA or SPFL. I think we're not far away for the clubs coming out and having a go at both of them. Both of them are very quiet and talking about the government and looking for some support from the government for the Scottish football teams. I know England are doing everything they can for the government to get millions there, but we seem to be very quiet up here, and I'm sure at this moment in time there'll be Scottish clubs just sitting there getting deeper and deeper and deeper into debt. So somebody better get their finger out somewhere and get some money out of our government.
Yeah, listen, I think, Hugh, the one thing that is evident right now, which hasn't come out, is quite simply the amount of clubs who will be right in the mire right now and wondering what's going to happen.
Absolutely, Peter. You know, I'm shocked, actually, that we're lumbering into December, not with another lockdown. I'm not surprised by that at all. I thought that the writing was on the wall, but I'm shocked about the lack of casualties, invisible casualties. But that, I mean, the lack of admins and the lack of liquidations in the Scottish game. I'm happy about it, but I'm shocked by it. I think one of the reasons is the furlough scheme. I think one of the reasons is that a lot of clubs got a certain amount of money up front in season tickets, but it's unsustainable. It can't. I mean, if it goes on, if we don't have footfall in the stadiums in the new year or early in the new year, it really is a catastrophe. One of the brightest spots, we talked about bright spots in the week, is not only we've got one vaccine now, we've got 2. And that brings, even from very sober scientific sources like the World Health Organization, which has been properly the most cautious body in commenting on things, even they are making optimistic noises about things opening up pretty significantly in spring. And being back to normal by next winter. Now, next winter's a long way away if you're not getting much money through the gate. But if next spring was on the agenda, that might be the lifesaver. It's interesting down south, Peter, just to end with this, that a lot of the English Premier League clubs, they're mooting that they expect fans in their stadiums by Christmas.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say to you. As early as next month, they're hoping that a certain amount of fans will get into it. Just you be careful, Hugh, when you start talking about vaccines. You know what it's like. The social media, the social media team start leathering you, because there are some people who medically know what it's all about, and of course there are lots of people who believe the Earth is flat who like to cane you as well, Hugh. So just be very careful when you're talking about vaccines and how it's going to solve everything. We don't want to go down that road because there are many people out there who have got medical gifts and a great insight, and they're questioning every word we say on it. But I'll tell you right now, Tier 4 is something that I think the middle of Scotland is getting ready for yet again. And it's painful to say the least, but whether it gives us a better Christmas or not, only time will tell. Thanks to John Benson, who says to us, remember there are other supermarkets that you can go to as well. John, you're 100% correct. I was just thinking of the nearest one. I know Roughie likes to sample so many different supermarkets. Roughie just likes to go around the supermarkets with a trolley, not necessarily buying anything, just walking around the old supermarket. It's a fantastic venue. It's replaced the tunnel and Mardi Gras for Roughie. He just dances around. He just dances around to the music. Are you okay? I was actually, honestly, Roughie, I was talking about that to somebody today, and he says, I haven't seen Roughie in the supermarket in a wee while, and I went, no, I says there are other supermarkets he likes to troll around with his trolley as well, just to keep yourself occupied, Roughie, yeah?
Yeah, you never know who you might meet in a wee supermarket. It's nice to be nice. When you can't reach that top shelf, there's always somebody there to help you.
There's always somebody taller. It's as simple as that. Listen, one little thing that again, if Scotland get a goal back, it's half time, 1-0 to Greece. Fingers crossed we get the fight back in the second half of this one. Listen, they've got themselves to the chance of qualifying. Since first time I think since 1996. So let's hope they can do it. Roughie, you were going to say something.
I don't want to put pressure on you, but obviously if Czech Republic don't win their game, it doesn't matter whether we get beat. So it'd be interesting to see how they're doing.
Well, to be fair, Roughie, as far as I get your point. I mean, the Czech Republic manager, I think his name is Jaroslav Silhava, has mentioned that he thinks Israel will beat Scotland tomorrow night as well. He's just cranking it up so that the Czech Republic can see Slovakia off. I didn't get your predictions on it. I'll get it now because I just one little topic that I think is well worthy of your comments, guys. Darren, how do you see Scotland doing against Israel tomorrow?
As you say, I think he'll put out what they look upon as the sort of the first team that played against Serbia. I don't know if Robertson, because it's a hamstring, I don't know if Robertson will be involved, but I think Kieran Tierney going over there and he could play that. You've got others, Cooper that could come in and play the left-sided centre half. I'm going to go 2-0 Scotland.
Yeah, I can always tell, Darren, when you are really thinking hard. There's always that little pause, and then you know that I can see the wheels going round as you're thinking.
Yeah, no, well, Peter, I'm just. They're on a high. And as you said the other day, there, I've never spoken to anybody that's turned round and said was on a downer against Slovakia. Yes, you don't want to lose games, but because Serbia was such a high, and like Ryan Christie had the whole nation crying. That because the performance was good as well. It wasn't. They didn't go out and they didn't get battered. They were the better team the first half. It was kind of even the second half. Yes, we've missed a couple of chances. So I think the confidence will be massive. And I expect them to go. I do expect them to go and win 2-0.
Yeah, Connor Bapty has just said 4-0 to Scotland with McBurney scoring all four. Roughie. Roughie, if
Well,
that happens,
I
I
don't-
will take you
what-
round the supermarket and I'll pay for everything. I'll let you do a supermarket dash, Roughie. You can just put you can put tellies in and everything, Roughie, and McBurney scores all 4 of them.
Yeah, I think we'd all be happy with that one.
Yeah. Peter, what
Yep.
you've got to remember that the boy had the bottle to stand up and take a penalty.
Oh,
the pressure listen, he'll know. They're all on social media. They all love it. He'll know that the stick he has been getting. That he had the bottle to stand up and take a massive penalty for the country. So fair play to him.
Yeah, I agree with you, Darren, 100%. But our job on this programme is to watch footballers on a regular basis, study the facts, study the stats, and offer our observation of whether he's the man to score the goals. And we do that. Sometimes people view it as being cutting, harsh, whatever, Hugh. But even his stats at Sheffield United tell me that if he is going to be deployed, he's certainly not going to be the man who's going to be scoring the goals for us. That's why I think, again, we created a lot of chances the other night there. I think we'll scrape this one 1-0. What about you, Hugh?
I agree with you in both counts. He's not going to be a goal scorer, certainly at international level. That's not to say he doesn't have a role at international level, but he's not going to be a goal scorer, and he won't be in the team tomorrow night. Lyndon Dykes will be back, and I agree. I think we're now in a stage of we generally are very solid defensively, and I think Scotland will win 1-0.
Roughie, did you give us a score?
No, this is now the Reverend Jolly speaking. Just to remind everybody, we've played this team 3 times and we haven't beaten them yet. They beat us in Israel. We've drew twice at Hampden. But I do think we've improved in these games, so I'm also going to go 1-0 Scotland.
Right, okay.
Peter,
so just a bit of negativity and then a happy ending.
Was Dykes wasn't on the bench, was he? Was he injured?
No, he's suspended.
He's
suspended.
Yeah.
Right, sorry.
So he'll be back for this one. There's a niggling hamstring injury for Andy Robertson, but even if he doesn't make it, you suddenly look at Tierney's performance in left back at the weekend, and I thought, yep, he did himself no harm whatsoever of coming in there, and then, all you have to do is get Backer as lead singer, Andy Considine in there, and that left of the 3 again, and who knows. Now, just before we go, serious topic, one that I think, I don't know where it goes, I don't know what the objective is at the end of it, I don't know what the end game will give so many people who've been talking about it. I noticed in your paper, Hugh, the Daily Mail, they had a real hard-hitting picture of the amount of footballers, quite a lot of them from the 60s, who are suffering from dementia, and they're trying to get that link and that acceptance of the link of footballers 3 times more likely to get dementia because of their heading off the ball and the rigours of football at that time, and possibly even now. In the future, footballers will be 3 times more likely to get dementia. It's something that I think needs to be looked into in greater detail. I think we need medical evidence, scientific on this. And then, I don't know what the end game is or the objective, Hugh, because I don't see clubs suddenly saying, okay, we're going to put all this money in a kitty to compensate people.
Well, the research is, and the vast majority of all research on any relation between football and dementia has been held just up the road from here, Peter, by Dr. Willie Stewart at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital. He's the leading man behind this, and his purpose is just clinical. He's trying to establish a link between footballers and dementia, and so far he has come up with, after real, tens of thousands of investigation, found that it's 3.5 more times. You're 3.5 more times likely to get it if you're a footballer rather than you're somebody in the general population. As to the end game, there's only 2 end games possible. One is that they find the link is irrefutable, and the game has to change. I mean, that is going to be an absolute cultural revolution in how we play football. Is ball above waist high banned so that there's no heading, etc., etc. And then in the most practical end game, Peter, is what is done for the people who are suffering from dementia as a result of football. Do clubs and associations then become liable for their care? Huge questions, Peter, that very difficult to answer in a very short programme. But these are the two major issues that's going to come from this somewhere down the line.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that the picture, I'm not having a go at the Daily Mail for this, Hugh. I understand where they were coming from. the whole montage that they put together, Hugh, it was a collection of high-profile footballers, a Dave Watson at Southampton, a Dave Mackay from Hearts and Spurs days. There was a whole collection of very famous footballers, Roughie, and then you say to yourself, well, that's one collection that they're trying to emphasise the point with. There's Tier 2, Tier 3, Tier 4, Tier 5 of so many who've played football in a professional game that are also susceptible to it, Roughie.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, I'm not a medical expert, but I would hazard a guess back in the 60s and 70s, the balls that they played with then. I just started my career at the start of the big T-ball, Thistle T or something like it was called, and it was heavy. So I can imagine heading the ball wouldn't help you in any way whatsoever. It's just unfortunate that up here our player union don't have the same kind of money as they have down in England. I think Darren will know better than me that every transfer that goes on down there, money gets pumped into the players union, and they have a kitty for things like this. Lots of money they've got down there. Unfortunately, we're not as wealthy as them. But I would like to see if it's proven that these guys who have served their time playing football, and it is proven that that's what it caused, there would be some kind of payout, that for the service that they've done. I think you touched on it. It wasn't a payout. Remember that film you watched, Peter, the American one? Was it Concussion?
Yeah, that was Will Smith.
That went to the courts. Did he get a legal payout in that one?
I can't remember, but the problem here, Darren, is it needs one case to open the floodgates. But as Hugh mentioned, getting all the proof in place to open the floodgates for everyone else is going to prove difficult. I wouldn't be holding my breath, and I know Chris Sutton's been rightly banging on about it, and other high-profile footballers have been talking about it to try and somehow get a greater investigation into it. But I don't think they're going to get something that Roughie's talking about, Darren, which is some kind of compensation or package of money, to help families.
I think you're right, Peter, which is extremely sad. Everybody knows how kind of controversial Chris is. But if you saw his interview on BT, that his dad is really struggling, and obviously he broke down. He broke down on the programme, and it's sad for everybody, Peter. But I think you're right. I think up here it is going to be hard, because I think, Roughie, as you said, I think they get 5% of every domestic transfer in England, which people go for 50 million. So you can imagine how much money they've got. But we struggle with that side of it, and I think your point, Peter, is it's trying to get all the proof to say that this is what's caused it. We should be getting X amount, or even a compensation package for them. But I think you're right. I think it's going to be very hard to prove that.
Yeah. Okay. It is a sad topic to end on, but it's one of those topics that we have to deal with on the programme. We've got a fantastic competition coming up next month, and you won't want to miss it. There's some great giveaways that we are going to tell you about, because we've had a revamp on our website, www.plzsoccer.com. You can download the app, and if you download the app, you can actually watch the programme on your phone. If you're out and about, you may be walking around a park. If we're still allowed to exercise, I think we will be allowed to have one form of exercise. You can watch it on the app, download it, Android, or indeed on your iPhone as well, and enjoy the programme. We also have the podcast on a regular basis. So hopefully, like, share and follow with your friends, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. The last thing I would say to you is we are no longer going to comment on some of the people who poison the site. We've stopped doing it on YouTube. We've stopped to chat. We're no longer going to comment. At the moment, we're just less and less commenting on some of the people who are clearly unhinged on our Facebook. What we've taken as something we've done since we started this programme with myself and Roughie is we've appealed to decent people who love the game of football, the people who love their team, the people who want to talk about football and the players and what they do. We will no longer comment on Facebook on anybody who is abusive or indeed racist or sectarian. What we're just going to do is ban them. It's as simple as that. There'll be no message. We're just going to ban you. We've started it now on a regular basis, and we are going to continue to do it. And if we lose 5-10% of the people who watch this programme, it'll be 5-10% well worthy of losing, believe me. Thank you to the decent people who have joined us on the programme. We're not going to mention it again. We're going to continue to talk football. Darren Jackson, Hugh McDonald, Alan Rough, love it. So do I. Come on, Scotland, tomorrow against Israel. Hopefully you'll join us ahead of it. We'll hear more from Steve Clarke. We'll hear from Ryan Jack too. And fingers crossed, as I look at the watch, I hope that the under-21s can mount a fight back. If you're watching this later on, you'll already know the answer. Thank you for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit